Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to our second informative event of the year. We are so glad that you guys can make it. Um, and we also hope that you will be able to gain very useful insights from our three amazing guest speakers here today. In this webinar, we will get the chance to learn more about the pre-dental journey, getting involved with. So hello everyone. Welcome to our second informative event of the year. We are so glad.
Shadi, you need to, exit out of the YouTube video, please.
Sorry about that. So yeah, you will get the chance to learn more about the pre-dental journey, getting involved with extracurricular activities, tips on the DAT, and a lot more useful tips about the process of getting into dental school. After the event has finished, if time permits, you guys can ask any outstanding questions that you may have from our speakers. Before we pass the stage to our speakers, I just wanted to speak about what will be covered. So we're going to cover why dentistry, first of all. So why and when each of our guest speakers decided that dentistry is the right path for them, the decision factors and unexpected obstacles that they came across throughout their journey, their major of studies and undergraduate journey, as well as DAT experience and extracurricular activities. I also wanted to introduce our club. So the BFT team is a student-run organization dedicated to helping students on their path to dentistry. We plan on doing this by networking, mentorship, and educational and opportunity-related workshops and webinars such as this one. And we also want to help students get to know each other and sort of create a space to allow people to make friendships and network with another to help each other throughout their journeys. Also, one thing to note, if you are a general member with our club, make sure to record your own hours because we're not yet ratified. How you should go about doing this is record the name of the event and the date and the number of hours that you stayed. Also, if you want to gain more hours with us, if you were to post 4 of our Instagram posts on your stories or on your Instagram, you would get an equivalent of 1 hour of volunteering. And if you were to do that, please make sure to keep a receipt, like keep a screenshot so that we can check back with you at the end of the year just to count your hours. Now I'd like to pass it on to Shamim to talk more about the webinar.
Hi guys, my name is Shamim. I'm the social media coordinator for Bright Future Dentists. So I just wanted to let you guys know that for our club, we basically have WhatsApp group chats for first year pre-dental students and our general members. So you can join these 2 group chats with the QR codes here or with the bit.ly links over there. And this is a really good opportunity for you guys to be able to communicate with each other, meet other like-minded pre-dental students like you, and as well join and be updated on all of our events that are coming in. We always remind you guys, we let you guys know about things that are coming up. And also for our general members group chat, we're working on it, but we will be giving you guys opportunities.
Shamim,
Okay, yeah, I don't know why that muted, but we'll be giving you guys opportunities to work with us, and you guys will be coming in. And for example, like Sorma and I were talking about it, if you guys did want to get involved with any specific teams like social media, events, or even work alongside our first year coordinator, you can actually message us and let us know, and we can look for really great opportunities for you as well. But of course, join the WhatsApp group just for all the updates and all the information there. Thank you so much. I'll pass it on to Sorma.
Hi guys, so I'm Sorma, I'm the president of this club. I just wanted to say that a quick disclaimer before we start the presentation. So all of this information is just to help you guys on your dental path. Please don't take any of the information here as don't take this as the gospel of truth. We're just here to help you and kickstart off your journey as a pre-dental and hopefully have a lot of help from this webinar. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to our first speaker, Sia. Please, you can unmute yourself and introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here. My name is Sia. I'm a 4th year student at Western University, so I'm not from York, but it's lovely to see all your faces here. I'm doing medical sciences with a specialization in physiology. And like I said, I'm going into my 4th year. Should I start going in, or is this just an intro, or should I start talking?
Yeah, this is just an intro. We'll ask you the questions in a bit.
Okay, my apologies. I'll give it to Nikki now.
Hi everyone. I'm Nikki. I recently graduated from McMaster Kinesiology, and I'm currently entering my first year of dental school at Western in a week. So nice meeting everyone.
Hey guys, my name is Michael. Thank you for hosting us today. I currently am going to second year at UFT, and I did 3 years of biology at York University.
Thank you guys all for coming. We're really excited to have you. So we just to let all the people that are in the webinar here know, we just made the speakers in the order of like how far they are down the dental journey, just so each speaker can elaborate and add on to the previous speaker. So with that, I'm going to start the first question. So, sorry, just somebody. So it's really wonderful to have all of you guys coming in from like various backgrounds. We have people from upper year dentistry and from Western, UFD, all kinds. So we just wanted to ask, let me go to the next slide maybe. Yeah, so why did you pick dentistry? So what made this the right career path for you? And like, when did you decide this? What factors did you consider when you picked this career? And did you have anything that was unexpected that you experienced like on your path to be applying for dental school that you wish you knew as an undergrad?
Yeah, so I think I'll start us off. I actually didn't want to do dentistry when I started my undergraduate. Like I said, I'm in medical sciences, and most people in my program are trying to do med school. So we have a lot of like anatomy and physiology and a lot of medical school related courses. And so that's what I planned when I was in first year. But then I guess this is kind of a cliche with a lot of people, but I just looked at it and I thought with the lifestyle and the amount of work hours that dentists and medical doctors have, I really thought that dentistry was a more suitable career path for me. Like I always knew that I wanted a line of work where I kind of work on my own, but it's also in the health field adjacent. But I wasn't really sure which one I liked more. But then after doing a few years of undergraduate, I decided that dentistry just, I guess, really, I enjoyed it more. And I also liked the lifestyle and the work ethics and the workspace of a dentist more than a medical doctor. So that's kind of where my decision making came from. And as for if I had anything that I wish I knew, I guess I wish I knew I wanted to do dentistry. That would have made it easier. But I guess like in a sense, you don't really know that until you go through it. So I'm sure a lot of first and second years, or maybe even third and fourth years, aren't really sure what they want to do after. And I guess I'm a big fan of, if you don't know, you don't know, you're going to figure it out. So that's kind of the path that I took. I somewhat just stumbled upon it after looking into different things. So I think I guess that's what university is for, to an extent, for you to explore what you like and what you don't, and what path best suits you. So yeah.
I'll just go off of Sia's comment. So similarly for me, I wasn't sure about dentistry when I first entered undergrad. I did kin, and I originally thought it's going to be similar to life science. So I guess I didn't do enough research in high school. And by the time I was in my second year, I was just not enjoying my time. Everyone wanted to go to physio school, and I just felt like I volunteered a lot, and I felt like physio wasn't for me. So again, I shadowed, I volunteered at medical clinics, physio clinics, dental clinics, and dentistry just clicked for me. Similar cliche lines. It was a lot of the hands-on stuff for me that I liked. Also the creativity. I really like just incorporating some art into my kind of studies. I think it makes it fun, especially in a career too. Yeah, and then towards the end of third year, I was sure about dental school, but I still wrote the MCAT. I still did all the extra stuff that I didn't really need to do until I made up my mind about dental school. So yeah, that's why.
For me, I don't really have anything to add on. I mean, Saya and Nikki said pretty much everything that also applies to me. But ever since I was a kid, I actually enjoyed going to the dentist for some reason. Just the smell of the clinic, the looks, the environment, everything just felt right. So when I applied for undergrad, I always wanted dentistry. I always knew that's the goal. And that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I guess a lot of us on our pre-dental journey can kind of relate to you guys. I personally really like the art aspect of it and the hands-on aspect of it as well. And also, when I was thinking of it, when you go into dental school, a lot of the studies, as I've done research, I don't know if it's true, but it's a lot related to doing like hands-on activities and like learning by doing, not very theoretical as much, even though there is a lot of theory. So yeah, that's what attracted me to it. So yeah, it's really interesting. So Shannon, would you like to start off with the next question?
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you so much, guys. Those were really great answers and honestly, really relatable answers. So I wanted to move on and discuss with you guys about more of like your undergrad journey. So of course, like this is kind of like being a pre-dental student has like its own unique journey within itself. And further down like your path, like two of you have like moved on from your undergrad, but Sia, you're pretty much towards the end of your undergrad. And I'm sure you guys have learned so much about your experiences the past like 3 to 4 years. And we wanted you guys to give the best advice you can give academically. So extracurriculars, we will be asking you guys later, but in terms of academics, how did you feel like it was during your undergrad? You guys each mentioned your major, but why you thought that major was a good path for pre-dental students. Did you guys end up having trouble managing your time and like your requirements and stuff like that? Whether you guys took a full course load, and if you could go back in time, change anything. So if you guys can give any like tips and tricks regarding those, we'd really appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I'll start with the last one a little bit. Like I said, I'm in physiology, and at Western, how it works is if in your 4th year, you get a thesis project and you work basically in a lab like 40 hours a week. That's starting next week. So I'm not too excited to be working 40 hours and not getting paid, but you know, it is what it is. But so what I'm trying to say is the reason I did this is because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, especially with dentistry. So I kind of wanted to have my options open to grad school and research projects in different labs. So that's why I took that. But if like somebody knows that they want to do dental school 100%, then I guess I would advise that you just take courses that you think are best for dental school and are prerequisites, and then do a major that you like. Because I'm kind of, you know, in this major where I work a lot on like cells, and I don't know how much that's going to be applicable in the future. If I, you know, hopefully if I do get into dental school, I don't know how much I'm really going to use my really, really specific research on like cell. I don't even want to get into it. It's like, it doesn't matter. The point is, I think if you do know what you want to do, then it's best that you just stick to what you like. And not that I'm saying I hate my major. I still like it's very fun. It's just, it's a lot to handle. Like your second question says how you balance the two. It's kind of hard to do applications and the DAT and prerequisite courses if you have to, at the same time that you're doing like a full-on course load that requires your full attention that's needed for other career paths, like for example, grad schools or medical school or stuff like that. So in that sense, I would say just really pick a major that you actually like. And that's what I learned in the past 4 years. Like at Western, it's pretty common for students to take what we call bird courses, which are just very uninteresting courses that just give you easy marks. You know, like I took a geography course and I took a human history course, and like they're fine courses, but I just didn't enjoy them, and I honestly didn't do better than my regular bio courses. So what I would say is just pick courses that you like. Don't worry too much about the marks. Of course, that's a factor as well, but if you do enjoy it and you do enjoy studying for it, it's definitely going to be easier to do well on. And that's what I've really learned. So this year I didn't really take any random electives that I wouldn't like, and I ended up just taking courses that I do enjoy. And I guess I'll let you guys know next year if I do end up doing better or not. But that's just what I've learned over the past 3 years. And with the sorry, let me see if I answered all the questions. Yeah, so I don't know if my path was a good path for my major was a good path for pre-dental students. I'd say my major has a lot of workload and a lot of commitments, so maybe it isn't the best, but you know, here we are. And yeah, I guess that's my life. I'll pass it on.
Thank you so much, Sia.
So I'll continue my rant about how kinesiology wasn't the best program for me personally, but I know a lot of you guys are at York, and the York program is very different. So take what I say with a hint of salt. In general, I would say whenever you talk to people, whatever stage they're at, just remember that you're listening to people's advice, and you don't necessarily have to take every single person's kind of word, because everyone has a different experience than you. So if we sit here and say we love our program or hate our program, that really shouldn't affect how you feel about your program. But personally, I think my major made it very difficult for me to go to dental school, because I had all the prereqs for dental school on top of my program prereqs. I also applied for the US, and the US had so many prereqs. So I kind of ended up having to take a 5th year. And that's another thing. It's okay to not finish in 4 years. It's okay to kind of spend an extra year getting your courses together and spending that time working on your application, writing the DAT. So that's something that I want all of you guys to take from this. Another thing was that I did have a full course load all throughout. And fun fact, I did have a couple of C's, and I am going to dental school. So it's okay if you guys have C's, because I remember when I got my first C's, I was panicking, I was crying. I was like, this is it for me. They need a 4.0 all 4 years, but that's not the truth. So that's another thing with your course loads. As long as you show a progression, they really, really like that. What else? That's my advice on academic life. I would say just not give up, try your best. There's always room for improvement. And similar to C, I did do a thesis for an entire year. If you don't have to do it, don't do it. But I wasn't sure about dental school. I was also considering a master's. It was a very good experience, but it does take up a lot of your time. So just heads up for that one. But yeah, good luck, Sia.
Thanks, yeah, Nikki. I agree with what you said, actually. And to add on, to answer the first question, I mean, you should expect to be grinding a lot during undergrad. This is, you're getting paid in the future. You know, it's short-term commitment for a very good pay in the end. And it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be simple. The more work you put into it, the more you get out of it. In terms of my story, so I did biology when it came to my major. You don't have to do anything fancy. I mean, just like Sia said, you don't really have to go to cell biology or, you know, biochemistry or anything fancy. I mean, the major usually doesn't matter as much. What matters is the courses you take. As long as you're taking courses that are relative to your, you know, dental path, I think that's important. And something that I felt was important for me is taking kin courses like human anatomy and human physiology, along with other biology courses like animals, plants, bacteria and stuff like that, because it's all on the DAT. So might as well, you know, study during your undergrad instead of later on. And maybe some psych courses actually too, some neuroscience. There was a lot of that on the DAT, and we definitely get to see it here in dental school as well. So that's also important. Did I have trouble managing my major and pre-dent requirements? Yes, it's going to be difficult at first, just at first, but eventually you'll build a discipline. You'll learn how to manage your time. You'll notice that if you have the will, then you know there's a way. And I did take more than full course load actually. I wanted to take certain courses that I enjoy taking, like Spanish and some other side courses. So it was actually more than a full course load. And just try to have fun. I mean, just like Saya said, you don't need to take bird courses. As long as you're taking courses you actually enjoy, you're going to do well. I mean, if you genuinely enjoy it, you're going to study more for it, and you're going to be proud about taking those courses. Why not?
Thank you, guys. That was really interesting. I really agree with the fact that you should definitely invest your time in taking courses that you enjoy. For example, I took a course at Persian literature, and I really enjoyed this course just because I wanted to learn about my own heritage and like where like what everyone's talking about, because I wasn't growing up in Iran, so I wasn't really sure what everyone's talking about. So I really, really enjoyed that course. But a lot of my classmates had like trouble keeping up with the readings because it was a really intense course. It was like maybe like I don't know, like we had to read a whole like 300 pages. I'm not a reader myself that much, but like 300 pages in a week was a lot for me. I don't know about you guys. So yeah, like, and it was every week and on top of your courses, but I really enjoyed that course and I actually took a lot from it, and it like I explored it later as a like a kind of hobby interest on the side. So yeah, that's really interesting that you mentioned that. So for the next question, so we're going to be talking about your major. Sorry, I'm just trying to see if this is the right question. Okay, there we go. So life as an undergraduate student outside of your studies. So I was just wondering, basically, as an undergrad, how much did you have fun, I guess, and how much time did you spend doing extracurricular activities? And like, are there any like special places that you went and like you did your extracurriculars or your shadowing that you really recommend to pre-dental students? Or is there any like special things you did in your undergrad that really helped you in dental school? Like aside from, I guess, the classic research, or maybe if you're going to talk about your research, like what specifically was it about your research that really helped in your dental school, in dental school? And also, kind of, could you give us some tips with like regarding our GPA, like if someone's struggling, how could they bring up their GPA? Like, did you guys use any resources yourself that you recommend?
All right. I have a really short attention span, so I'm going to have to start from the end again, try to figure out what you were saying in the beginning. But the last thing that you said, it's not really a resource, but I say this to everyone, and I wish I knew this in first and second year. Just whatever you like want from a professor, just email them and ask. That is such a simple trick, and most people don't do it. And I really wish more people did. I've not just like free marks. Like obviously, if you email and say, "Oh, I want 2% because I need to meet certain GPA," no one's going to entertain that. But if you genuinely have a concern and then something actually went down, or you actually think that your assignment was graded poorly, or you actually think that you needed more time and something happened that was out of your control, and you talk to your professor about it, most of them are very understanding, and your TAs as well. They will, in my experience, they've almost always accommodated me if you just ask nicely enough. They're not in this to get you. So and that's really helped my GPA actually. Like last year I had a paper that was just over a GPA grade, like was between one and the other. Sorry, let me rephrase. So my final grade with one of my courses last year, it was all dependent on one paper, and 2% higher or lower would have changed the GPA that I would have gone on it. And I got the lower GPA, like I got 3 point something. And then I just emailed the prof and I said, "Oh, I think this was marked unfairly. I think this part and this part and this part, you could give me more marks if like you look at it." And he looked at it and he gave me like a better mark, and my GPA ended up changing. So I guess this isn't really like a trick, but it's just a lot of my classmates just don't care. And they're like, "Oh, what am I going to say?" If you actually approach the prof nicely and bring valid points, I think all of them will listen to you. So that's something that I have learned. And also likewise, if you are trying to get involved with shadowing or research or volunteering, just emailing people and asking them is honestly such a good start. For research, I remember in first year, I thought, everyone has to do research. So I just kept going around looking for research, but I couldn't really find anywhere to apply online, or I couldn't really find any labs that were hiring at the moment. So what I did is in second year, I just emailed every single research lab in my school, like every single one that I liked, like every single research lab that I somewhat enjoyed, I emailed, and one of them said, "Yeah, okay, sure, we'll take you on as a student." So a lot of the times these things aren't public knowledge to anyone, and you have to really go out of your way to find it. So what I would advise is just taking initiative and just going out of your way, stepping out of your comfort zone to get what you're looking for. Now, having that said, I don't really know how effective any of these things are in getting in. I guess Nikki and Michael can get into whether or not you need research. I couldn't tell you. I'm not in dental school, so we'll get to that later. But if that is something that you're looking for, I think taking initiative and taking the first step is always one of the more important ones. And in terms of like tutoring services, I didn't really use any. I know most universities have peer tutor programs. I know the ones at Western. I don't know what the ones at York are called, but most of the times there are students that are tutoring, like upper year students that are tutoring courses that they've taken in the past. And I know that that's a very, actually, no, I did use that. I used that in first year. I used for chemistry, I used tutoring by a student who was in his second year. So he tutored me for chemistry. It was very helpful. So I would definitely recommend that. And yeah, with volunteering and shadowing and research, again, I would say just stick to things that genuinely you enjoy, because I've done definitely my fair share of, you have to do this to get in, you have to do like a hospital experience. And I just like sat in front of an ER for 3 hours a week for 4 weeks and I just hated it. So just do stuff that you think you will actually enjoy. And again, I don't know if it's going to help or not, but just don't do it because you think you're supposed to. Obviously, you have to do some degree of extracurriculars and volunteering experience that is related to dentistry, but pick experiences that you will actually enjoy, because after all, you are in university and you're trying to have a good time. You're not trying to torture yourself. Do stuff that you would enjoy. For example, I did a hospital program with elderly patients where I would go and like talk to them and just, I don't want to get into the details of it, but I'm saying like even within the same experience, like with volunteering at a hospital, there are different experiences that might be better suited to you. So if you take what you like more, you're just going to end up going to it more. You're going to have more commitment to it. You know, if you are like looking for it long term, the person is more likely to get you to come back again. So again, my advice would be to just do stuff that you actually enjoy. And I keep saying that. It's true though. I started off my undergrad doing stuff that I was supposed to do to get into med school, and I really didn't enjoy it at all. Like you asked how much fun you had. I didn't have any fun first year because I was like so focused in trying to get into med school, doing all these things that you're supposed to. And I ended up just missing out on the experience. So then I learned that, you know, just you do the things, but while you're doing it, at least enjoy your time as well and really try to do experiences that further your own development and your own experience and your own like journey, really. So that's what I would say.
Yes, I'll continue. I really like the things you mentioned. All of them are so true. So I'm not going to repeat the ones that Sia already said. But in terms of just extracurricular activities for you guys to do, shadowing and volunteering are different. So even on your applications, when you're applying, they're going to want a specific number of shadowing from you and just volunteering, giving back to the community. So don't get those mixed up. Don't think that if you shadow a dentist for 200 hours, that kind of makes up for other volunteer activities. Like Sia said, it has to be genuine. It has to be things you enjoy. It doesn't have to necessarily be dental related. I did my volunteering with individuals who had MS. I was their personal trainer for 3 years. That was one of my things. I also volunteered for a physical activity program for kids. I did some research, but I don't think you don't need it 100% to get in. It's definitely not one of those things that everyone has at all, but Michael can talk more about that. So yeah, my volunteering experience wasn't super related to dentistry, but I had a lot of dental clinic shadowing. And one thing that I think everyone should do is not just to shadow one specific type or one specific specialty in dentistry. It's really important to do general dentistry. A lot of US schools actually want you to have a minimum of 50 hours in general dentistry, I think. So make sure you get that covered before you do your ortho and perio and all the other specialties. It also kind of gives you a better idea of the whole picture. So yeah, those two for shadowing and volunteering. In terms of GPA, like I said, I did have a couple of C's first year and second year, and I completely changed it around. And the biggest difference was time management. I felt like, and I was also varsity fencing throughout undergrad, I forgot. With sports, I couldn't manage my time very well in the beginning. So I was struggling. Like I felt like I didn't have a social life, but my marks weren't that great. So I was doing something wrong. And I figured out it's my time management, like honestly giving myself little goals. I remember in the beginning of third year, I decided to do 3 hours a day in the library, no matter what. And It didn't matter if I have any assignments due, any tests. I would be in the library for 3 hours and I would catch up on stuff. And I'm telling you, like, that little secret for me, like that little change of habit changed everything for me. I don't know if there's anyone in this chat who can relate to time management issues, but I would leave everything till the last minute. I would sometimes even miss an assignment. I had to ask for an extension because I just had so many things going on with my extracurriculars, with my fencing, that I just didn't have the correct time management skills. Once I changed that, I changed everything. So that's very important. Get help wherever you can. Again, first and second year, I wasn't asking for help from tutors. I wasn't going to my profs. Like, I just had this feeling that I can do it on my own, but you don't need to. There are people around you that can support you, your peers. Like, get together, practice, kind of study together, and use all the resources you can. Use YouTube. Honestly, you have to be a go-getter. Like, you can't be passive in this journey because your courses are tough. Like, you're gonna have just a lot of things thrown at you, especially if you want to improve your extracurricular activities. So yeah, be a go-getter in a way. I think those were the only questions. Yeah. Okay, passing out to Michael.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, everything you said is pretty accurate. But I do want to say one thing to the people listening. This is pretty much guidelines, right? It's very, very ambiguous how universities look at applications. I know some people did no research. I know some people did no volunteering. Some people actually didn't even shadow and they got in. It just depends on what they're looking for, and we can never know what they're looking for. So just keep it in mind that there's no one formula that fits all. And I know for a fact the University of Toronto was very focused on GPA when I applied. And that was my strong point. I actually didn't do any research, so I can't really speak about it. But so yeah, actually, pretty much most of the class did research in my class. So it definitely seems like a very important point, but I can't really speak about it as much. I did a fair amount of shadowing, and I did volunteer a lot when it came to like raising awareness about dental health and just organizing events, talking about what it's like to get into dentistry or what you should study and whatever. But at the end of the day, just do whatever you feel would work for you to stand out from the rest. Remember, it's a pretty competitive field. If you're not offering anything new or you don't have anything unique about you, universities are not going to be as attracted as they would be, you know? And just focus on GPA. I mean, as important as volunteering, research, and shadowing are, in the end, you need to be someone who can soak up a lot of information. And unfortunately, GPA is the only way. I don't really like this system, but it's the only way to judge how someone is when it comes to, you know, cramming information and retaining it. And I want to add something when it comes to resources. You really should be standing on the shoulders of giants. And what I mean by that is go on pre-dental forums and see what the people who got in, you know, how was their stats? How was the GPA? How was their DAT marks? What major did they take? What courses? What kind of people did they do research with? What did they volunteer? Just pretty much what you're doing right now. I mean, just see where people are and how they got there and just follow their steps. That's the best way to do it.
I just wanted to add something. Those things I said about 50 hours of shadowing, those are specific to the US. Like Michael said, for Canada, we almost don't even know what they want, what they look for, and they like to keep it like that. So it's this big question mark. But the US on the other side is very specific, especially this year that I applied. Some schools would email me saying, oh, you didn't specify if your shadowing was with a general dentist or with another specialty. So everything like that is for the US. So just kind of for whoever doesn't want to apply to the US and you only want to apply to Canada, it's very ambiguous. Sorry.
Thank you, everyone, for all the tips and tricks. Honestly, I learned so much just by listening right now, and it was really insightful to hear your perspectives of it in many different ways even. And each of you are on a different journey in a sense, but you're right. A lot of it is similar and things tie together a lot, but thank you so much. And then we wanted to move on to the next question. So we wanted to discuss if you guys have advice regarding the dental aptitude test. A lot of undergraduate students think about this and think it's so scary and are so intimidated by it. And just like starting to think about it or talking about it, could you like talk to us about which DAT you took and why, when you decided to take it, and the best resources that truly helped you? And you can elaborate on this, like, however, like your DAT journey was kind of, but just like give us your best advice on it.
Yeah, hello. So I took the DAT in November of 2020. So I did it just under a year ago. And I think I'm the only one who did it after COVID. I don't know if Nikki did it with me or you did. Oh, you did it with me?
That one too. I did the November 2021 one.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So time. Yeah. So I guess I can get into how much I studied for it and what I did. I started again because it was 2020, it was COVID, everything closed down, school shut down and everything. So I started studying for it pretty early. I think I didn't study for it all the time, but I think I started in May. Now I'm not saying you should study for like 6 months, but that's just like when I started because I didn't have anything to do. It was COVID. Everything was closed. I was at home. So I said, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. I was doing very few hours a day. I was maybe doing like 2 hours a day at most. When I really stepped it up and actually started actively studying for it was closer to maybe August is when I actually started actively doing it. And yeah, I actually do want to share a few tricks because in a sense, I really studied for it twice. I studied everything once from May to August, and then August, I realized I know nothing. And so then that's when I actually started to do a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about. What helped me the most was flashcards, because especially for bio, there are so many obscure facts that you have to know. And again, I don't like the system, but it's just the way it is. And if you don't have a strong bio background, and if you took, courses like I was in physiology, so I didn't know anything about plants or bacteria, or I only knew the human side of things, and I knew nothing from everything else. So it's just so many specific facts that they want you to know. And there's like no real way to understand it. Like there's no way to know a lot of these things. You just have to kind of memorize it. So flashcards are what worked best for me. And also mind maps. I know there's one section where there's usually some questions on the classifications of different living things, like, animals and like different classes of animals. Like I did a lot of mind maps and a lot of like diagrams for that to help me keep memorizing those. So that's what I would recommend for bio, especially just given how much you have to memorize and how much content there is. As for resources, I did, I'm not getting paid, but I did boot camp for the DAT. Again, I'm not saying you should. I actually did crack the DAT and boot camp. And I hope they don't see this and they don't sue me, but I would strongly recommend boot camp because crack the DAT, I just don't think it was very representative of what the DAT actually was. I think it's more, I think it's just like really old. Like the questions were what I see on like 2012, 2013 DATs, DATs. So again, don't sue me if you're watching this, but I just didn't find it to be very representative at all. It's a good price, which is why I signed up for it, but it's just not worth it. What I did use was boot camp. Oh, I have a question. Oh, nice. Did I use I did not use Kaplan, but I don't know if it's necessary. Like I said, I only used boot camp. I did nothing else. I did their bio and I did their chem. And what I found was most effective was just doing questions. Like after you do everything once, there is really no point in like going back and doing it again over and over in my mind. What I did was I just started doing questions. So for like maybe October, and I did my DAT at the end of November. So for October and November, I pretty much only did questions without doing any, like I didn't study anything else. I just did flashcards and I did questions and that was pretty much it. I found that worked out for me. Again, I know studying habits are different person to person. So I appreciate that this might not work for everyone. But what worked for me was doing questions, especially for chemistry and for perceptual ability. Again, there's like no way to study for the PAT. So you just have to do questions as much as you can, do practice. And that's why it's really important that you have representative sources of what's actually on the test. And I found that bootcamp was pretty representative on the PAT. It was pretty close what it was. So I felt prepared going into it. For chemistry, again, just questions. I did all the content, but then once you're done, there's really no point in like going back and like watching stoichiometry every time, just like stoichiometry. How do you say that? You know what I'm talking about. It's just do the question, right? It's just, that's what I found was easiest, is practicing and getting your brain like used to doing the math questions. I don't know if you remember this, but we had so many math questions on our DAT. I think like half of chemistry was just math. So it's important to get used to that as well. I think it varies year to year, but that's what it was. And also for the reading comprehension part, again, practice is what makes perfect. You really need to be able to read the passage in a timely manner and then read the questions, see what they're about. And like, again, there's like no way to study for it. You just have to practice and do as much as you can. So I think it's really important to have resources that are accurate and are close to the actual exam they can study for. And I'm sure Michael and Nikki can give us more details on what they used, but I used bootcamp personally. And I found it to be pretty good. I mean, it's on the pricier side, but at the same time, like you're doing it once, or hopefully like you're aiming to do it once or twice, like you're not going to do it every day. So might as well like really try to get the best resources and the best help that you can get in your journey. And yeah, I think that's all the questions. I hope I answered everything. Yeah. Oh, and when I started thinking about the DAT, it was on my mind since second year, but again, like you don't want to like overdo it. You don't want to study for it for a year, because then it just like it's a lot of memorization. So you can't just memorize plant hormones for a whole year, right? So there is some degree of time management worked into that as well. So you really have to like I would say like maybe 3 to like 4 months is the ideal amount to study for it. I think maybe, I don't know, maybe like others think differently, but doing it for a year, I would say, is you're just going to forget everything by the time you want to do the test. So yeah, I'll pass it on. I'm sure they have better tips. They got in, so don't listen too much to me. Ask them what they did.
And honestly, everything is so similar between what you've done and what you experienced and what my experience was. So I did the American DAT and the Canadian DAT. Not because I had extra time on my hands, but because Western only wanted the Canadian DAT, and I had my eyes set on Western. So I was like, I have to do it. I did the American one in August, and I don't know how many people in this group are interested in the American DAT and the Canadian DAT, because they're very different in my opinion. So if you guys want after, I can expand more on it. But I did use boot camp for both of them. I did hear from a lot of people who did the Canadian one. They also did the Crusher, DAT Crusher. And the reason, I think that's a Canadian version of it, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So the reason they did that was because you could print out the PAT section. And I totally forgot about this because I prepped for my American one all on my computer, all online, because everything's on your computer. And then I think in October, I realized my PAT is going to be on paper. So imagine all those angles, like everything that you've practiced on the screen is now on a paper. So it's very different. It's significantly different. Everything is almost bigger on the paper too. So print out your Canadian DAT, kind of really have that entire test setting for yourself every time you want to do the practice test. I would tell my parents, like everyone, like don't come in my room. I would put my phone away. I would eat like I would eat the day of the exam. I drank like I would drink the day of the exam. Everything was the same because I wrote the MCAT the summer before and I didn't do these things and I struggled. I very much struggled on the MCAT. So that's my tip for practicing for it. Make it as realistic as possible for yourself. Don't study for too long. Like a year, I think you will just burn out and forget everything. A better version of that would be to just learn your like chemistry classes. If anyone's right now in their chemistry classes, in their anatomy classes, bio classes, if you're still taking these electives, really try to learn those courses, because most of them are just the basics. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing that you should like, you're going to kind of see on the test that you're going to be like, I have never heard of this topic in my entire life. So there are ways to prepare for it. And let me think of other resources. I did start studying in May, only because I had to write the DAT in August. The American one has Orgo and math added to that. So you don't have to do that for the Canadian one. And let me see, how many times can you take the DAT? The American one and the Canadian one are different. I think one of them is 3 times, one of them is more times. You do get a couple of shots. The Canadian one is only offered twice a year, November and February. Because of COVID, it got moved around a bit this year, so I'm not sure of the exact dates, but that's the traditional time that it was offered before. The American one is offered all the time, like almost every day. It's ridiculous how often it's offered. And how is it different from your experience with MCAT? Okay. The MCAT was very different, very, very different, because for the DAT, if you read kind of the content, you're good. There's no abstract or kind of crazy questions where it's not based on content. There's no critical thinking in a way, I would say, on the DAT, whereas the MCAT, everything was in a passage form. So instead of reading one question that would ask you, for example, what is the function of the mitochondria? They would give you a passage on the mitochondria. You'd have to read that passage and then answer questions. So they're very different tests. I don't recommend doing them both. If you're not sure, I would definitely start shadowing and kind of doing your research on both schools and just kind of dedicating one summer to one of the exams and not wasting 2 of your summers, because you really have to give it your all. It's not one of those exams that you can take shortcuts to. There's no easy way around it. You got to sit down, you got to study 8 hours a day, and you got to get the content down. So it's a good idea to at least cut it down to DAT and then to cut it out to American and Canadian. And when is the best entry at the DAT? Depends on you, depends on your semester, depends how prepared you are. I would say don't take the test if you don't feel prepared. There is really no point to it. I thought writing, again, like the MCAT is just another standardized test. Like that's how I looked at it. And I was like, it's okay if I'm not ready. I'm just going to write it to see how it feels like to write a standardized test. And that's not a good idea. So write the DAT when you are prepared. Look at deadlines for schools. So the US schools start applications in June. So you might want to have your score before that. The Canadian schools start, I think, October, November, December. So those 3 months, they all have their own specific deadlines of when they want your DAT to be in their system. The basic content. I mean, yeah, they both have bio, they both have chemistry, but again, the way they ask you the question is very different. DAT is very straightforward. It's not that complicated from my experience. Neither the American one or the Canadian one was too complicated. If you study for it enough, you will do good on it. And for the PAT, I set the printing. For reading comprehension, see what works best for you. And I really like what Michael said, kind of standing on the shoulders of giants. There's a group chat called DAT Bootcamp on Facebook, and the WhatsApp groups that you guys just mentioned in the beginning of your webinar, they're such a great idea, because if people share their study skills, their study habits, and how they achieved good marks on their DATs, then that's what you should kind of try out, but then also try out like a couple different methods and see what works for you. I tried like 4 methods for my reading comprehension. 3 of them didn't work, 1 of them stuck, 1 of them was great. I really had an easy time with my reading comprehension, and that for me was reading the whole passage and then answering it instead of skimming. So I don't know how many of you are in the process of studying for that, so that feels relatable. I'm sorry, I think I talked for way too long. Michael, go ahead.
Sorry, just before Michael starts, I just want to echo what Nikki just said about the perceptual ability, because I went through the same thing. I did boot camp, which is on the computer. Honestly, it's probably on me, but I just didn't even realize that it would be different on paper. And then there's this thing called the CDA itself sells one practice DAT test where they send you a book that are mail, and it's just the regular DAT that you do. And I did that a week before my exam, and I was like, let's just study, let's just see what it is, right? And it was so different. I was looking at the angles and I'm like, this is just so different from the screen. So I definitely recommend doing it. So that one last week was very stressful for me. I was just printing off shapes in the library. Everybody was looking at me, and I was just printing it off to make up for it. But yeah, no, I definitely want to echo that. It's very important to do it on the paper.
I had the same exact issue. I was printing 50 pages a day trying to make up for it, and I definitely did not make up for it. I don't think I did very great on my PAT, but anyways.
Yeah, me neither.
Actually, I want to add on. I felt I didn't even do the American DAT, so I can't speak on that. But I actually enjoyed doing the Canadian on paper, because there's a lot of tricks that you can do on the PAT that can kind of help you get the answer that you wouldn't be able to do on a computer because you can't really draw. But definitely the Canadian DAT is easier. It doesn't have math. It doesn't have organic chemistry, thank God. Well, I don't know about now. I did mine in November 2019. But it didn't have those, and it was definitely way easier. If you check the CDA website, it's going to tell you exactly what's on the DAT. Do not believe it. It is not accurate, and it's definitely not what's on the actual DAT. They brought so many questions that it was like, especially ecology. There was a lot of attention paid in November 2019. There were like 4 questions on the biology section that weren't supposed to be part of the DAT according to their website. So just make sure you study as much as you can, even if it's stuff that you wouldn't expect to be on the DAT. I use DAT Crusher, and it's pretty expensive, but if you can afford it, save up some money for it, I guarantee you're gonna ace the Canadian DAT. It was literally spot on. I mean, almost every question in chemistry was exactly from previous years. It was very repetitive, and chemistry was basically math. I mean, basically no chemistry was involved. Biology, again, repetition. Like Saya said, flashcards were amazing. Reading comprehension is so ridiculous. I don't know how that idea came about, but there's no one way to do it. Whatever works for you, just try to go for that. But it's not going to make sense, and it's going to be super stressful. But hopefully you get through it fine. And it's just about getting a certain mark that would let you pass by. Now, when it comes to DAT Crusher, I know they also have a service called PAT Booster, and it's the same company that runs it. It was also very accurate to the Canadian DAT. And one more thing, there's a PDF file on the internet. I don't know where it is, but if you look up DAT Bootcamp Biology Notes, there's a PDF file. It's like 109 pages or something like that. It was amazing in explaining the biology section. You guys should definitely check it out. And that should realistically help you out with the DAT. Now, I see there's a message here that says, sorry, just one moment. If dental schools care that you wrote the DAT more than once. So I know UFT didn't care. UFT didn't care 2 years ago. And whether you write it once, 4 times, 5 times, it doesn't matter with them. So depending on where you want to go, if they're fine with you writing it more than once, try to write it more than once. Try to write it just for a test, test run, see what it's like, see how the timing is. Because I know for PAT, I couldn't finish all the questions. The last few questions I just randomly circled. Don't tell anyone that. But it's definitely good. It's worth giving a shot to that and see how it's like for you. Do I have any studying tips? Take your time. I would say study like 6 months before, but don't actually get serious until the last 2 months. Only 2 months should realistically be that very heavy, important window, because you're going to forget everything. Like I think Nikki said, you don't want to start a year before the DAT itself. There's no point. You're going to forget it all. And if you do that, I mean, you should be set. And that should be it.
One thing that I think could be beneficial to add that somebody asked in the chat is, how did you guys time like your sections during the real DAT? Like, how did like the formatting go with that?
That's like so fresh on my mind. I want to jump on it. So the way it works is like 3 separate tests. Basically, there's a science test, there is a perceptual ability test, and there is a reading comprehension test. So you can't really change the timing. You have 15 minutes for reading comprehension, and you can't have any more. Like you can't do PAT faster and then go to reading. They just take the test sheet away, and like you just don't even have the questions until when it's time for it. So there's really no timing involved with it. You just have to, it's what they give you. The only timing would be how you would divide up doing the perceptual ability. And I actually would highly recommend you not going in the order of the questions, because I don't know, again, how familiar people are here with how the test goes. There's 6 different types of perceptual ability. Sorry, can't talk. There are just like 6 different styles of questions, and people usually tend to like one more than the other, or just have not a good time with one of them at least. So it'll be best to start with what you're good at, because it is a crunch for time. I also definitely guessed the last few ones. So it's best to start with what you know best and what you are most confident in, and then make your way to the ones that you don't like as much. Like if you're going to guess it anyways, you might as well guess it at the end, right? So that's what I would say for the PAT. Like for example, for me, I loved cube counting. I guess that's the easiest one. So I started with cube counting, and then top, front, and end, TFE. To this day, I don't know what that is. I did that at the end. I still don't get it. Like, so that's how I would time it. I would just do it in the order that you like, because I think TFE is the second one, and I did it at the end. So And then for bio and chem, it's pretty standard. I think it's 60 minutes for the two of them. And you can decide how much time you want to spend on each, but I would say just divide it up evenly. I think there's 40 questions in bio and 30 in chem. So I would just do proportional to what it is, unless like you're very good at one and not the other. So you can decide your time with those two. But in terms of like science versus reading, you can't change the timing. It's two separate tests.
Thank you guys so much. Oh, there's another question, but I hope it's okay if we save that for the Q&A. There was a few other questions too.
Did you guys want, did anyone else want to add to to what Sia said?
I'm sure I can add to it. So funny enough, I actually also circled C for my last like 10 questions on my PAT. So definitely leave the one that you suck at for the end, because I didn't even have enough time for the TFE. I also still don't know what it is, and I pretty much circled C for all of it. So that's an important tip, to start with the ones you're good at. This is something I learned on my first, like on my American DAT. Don't panic if you don't know the first couple of questions. So I opened my test. I didn't know my first bio question. I go to the second one. I don't know the second one. I start panicking. I was like, I'm not going to do well. Like I start overthinking. Like you cannot let every question that you do, you need to let go. Like, or every section that you do, really, like you need to put that aside, forget about it, and start the new section fresh. You cannot start your reading comprehension if you're still debating if that one question in your bio section, was it C or was it B? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, once you submit it, that's done. You might as well focus all your energy and all your attention on the section you're doing right now. So don't dwell on the past during the test. It's a very, very important skill to develop, and I feel like a lot of us forget about it, but especially in the heat of the moment when you're panicking, it's a good skill to use. Yeah. Any other questions?
Nikki, I wanted to also add one thing. I just got a direct message wondering about what happens after you're at the DT, as in, how long is it valid for? Now, I can't speak for other universities, and I can only speak about the Canadian DAT, but when I applied in 2019, I know the DAT was valid with University of Toronto specifically. They only consider the past 2 years. So if you wrote a DAT 3 years ago, they don't consider it to be valid. So it's important to know which university you're applying for and what their conditions are. And it's also important to know which DAT you're writing. So if you're applying in, let's say I applied in 2019, they only looked at, okay, let me word it this way. If you're applying in 2019, the application was due, I believe, in October or September, although the DAT was in November. So I actually wrote the DAT after I applied to University of Toronto, and they considered that DAT, although I wrote it after applying. So it's important to consider how it works. I can't really word it. You just got to check with the universities, but definitely do the research about the timing of when you write the DAT. That's important.
Yeah, for the Canadian DAT, I think the rule of thumb is the past 4, including the year that you apply in. So if you're applying in, let's say 2021, so it's the past 4 DAT. So it's the November of 2021, February 2021, November 2020, February 2020, right? So that's just a good way to think of it for the Canadian one, just for the Canadian schools with the Canadian DAT. The American ones have different ones. Some have 3 years, some have 4 years. Some don't even accept Canadian DAT, so that's different. But for the Canadian ones, that's a good rule of thumb.
You said it perfectly. That's exactly what I was trying to say. That's amazing. There you go.
I would also add not to be shy in terms of messaging faculty, schools, like any of these questions. They change it very often, especially with COVID. There are new rules every single year. So feel very comfortable emailing them and being like, what courses do you need? When is the last DAT that you accept? They're not going to be weirded out by it. They're there to help you with the admission office. So anyone you want to talk to, any questions you have, your best bet is emailing them. I emailed at least 20 schools.
Yeah, so thank you guys for all that. I think we're done the questions and we're kind of moving into the Q&A section. Yeah, so I'm not I guess we could just ask the questions like in the chat, or you guys can raise your hands and you can ask we can answer your questions, like you can unmute and ask your questions. And I guess I will ask my questions too. I'll put them like I guess near the end when everyone's had their questions answered. Because I have a lot of questions about taking the DAT because I'm trying to take the American DAT this October. So I have a lot of questions for myself.
So can I just interrupt really quickly? If any of the participants weren't wanting to stay within for the Q&A aspect, there are just two things that I did want to mention. If you can just go to the forward slides really quickly, Sorma, and then we can like stop the recording and then get on to the Q&A recording, if that's okay. So we just wanted to let you guys know that we are having another virtual webinar and it's going to be our dental student journey. So similar to this one, we're going to have 3 more guest speakers come in and it'll be students who are going to be in dental schools. And they're going to also be talking about what it's really like to be in dental school, their journey of it, how they feel about it, and basically stuff related to that. If you guys are really interested in joining, just stay tuned for the exact date that we're going to be having it. It's going to be happening in early September. So in about like a week or two. We're going to be making a lot of posts about it on our Instagram. So just make sure you follow us and you can stay updated with that. And then Stormy, you can go to the next one, please. If you did want to join our team, we are hiring right now. We're hiring for about 4 different positions right now. So you can check out the application form that's linked in our link tree and our Instagram bio and fill it out. Make sure you also upload your resume with it. A CV is optional, but the deadline to apply is by September 3rd. But yeah, thank you guys so much.
And I'm gonna just move back a couple of slides and go back to the Q&A. But I guess Shamim, can you try to see which questions were not answered and then like read them out?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back. So
all right, guys, Shamim, do I have to just stop the live right now and then record it again, or you want me just to continue right now?
I think we should stop it and then start the Q&A.